this promise of the Holy One of Israel. And it is there, from that trek to Jerusalem, that he is going back home to Ethiopia. And on this road, he is reading the prophet Isaiah, trying to figure out, what is this all about? Who are we really talking about or experiencing in this? And Philip, on this wilderness road, has a transformational experience. He ends up with this eunuch in conversation. And he begins to unpack the story. It begins with an introduction, then the relationship with one another, and then the story about Jesus and what it has meant for him. How often today are we scared of this situation? In our own places, our own desert or wilderness roads, how often when someone asks us a question about faith or understanding, do we put our head down and go in another direction? You see, we've been told in our culture that that's a taboo subject, that we don't talk about it if we are good and polite Christians, on the one hand. Or on the other hand, there are those who have been so beaten up by this understanding of the first question being, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? That defenses go up. Rather than riding along together and connecting, being in relationship, being reminded what is the true vine, this connecting point that draws us together. And then allowing the story and the actions to inform. And I love when we get to this piece where the eunuch says, what is to prevent me from being baptized? What? The answer, we know, is nothing. But that wouldn't have been the natural response necessarily then. One who had been mutilated would not be readily accepted or always viewed as clean. One who was from another land who might be viewed as foreigner would not always be considered welcome or clean. Those who were outside, who couldn't enter into the temple, who handled money, may be considered unclean. But here for Philip, the answer rings through. In looking at this one with whom he has built a relationship and recognizing that God abides in him and that he can show forth this incredible love and witness through this one who has been made known to him, this Christ, this man from Nazareth. So when the question is begged, what is to prevent me from being baptized? Philip, in a sense, has a transformational experience himself. And they go down to the water, and the eunuch is baptized, and we have this image of the Spirit, the dove, the promise being revealed there. Another metaphor of the holy breaking in the midst of a profound act and a deep relationship. The question is, what do these stories do for us today? What does this rich metaphor of the vine, the sense of abiding in love, and the story of Philip, a disciple, and a eunuch, how do they speak to us today? Are we willing to go deeper in our relationship with this vine? To think about, as the kids lifted up, prayer and worship, love of neighbor, deep care, sharing, honoring. Are we willing to do that intentionally? Are we willing to look at those whom we encounter, no matter where they have been or who they are today, as being a sister and brother, and showing love and acts of kindness, rather than being about judgment ourselves? And are we willing to go to that wilderness road, which probably doesn't look like the trek from Jerusalem to Gaza? It probably looks more like a bus ride on Chicago Avenue. Or maybe it means walking down the sidewalk at 48th. Or maybe it's sitting in a restaurant with a friend when a stranger at a table next to you asks a question. Or maybe it's that person who comes up to you at your house and says, "My car broke down. Could you help me?" Or, "I'm lost. My GPS isn't working. Can you help point me in the right direction?" And are we willing to engage? To say you're not alone. And to take just that moment to initiate a conversation that is about relationship. That may transform them, but definitely will allow the scales to fall from our eyes and for new life to break in. So the vine, the journey.